It really is starting to feel like some satirical sitcom comedy that we're living in right now called this reality, or we're experiencing in 2021. Every news story that comes out is just it's just an irony. It's satirical, ironic comedy at this point. Ever since 2016, there's been theories that there was a big bang that went off, another one that this reality is a separate timeline from what timeline that we are on pre-2016. And stories like this, Amazon pressing for in-person voting for unionization election in the midst of a pandemic, which is very ironic because Jeff Bezos, who is the head of Amazon, is a known Democrat, and he was very for mail-in ballot votings during the presidential election. So it's just very ironic and satirical that he wants his employees to go in person to vote for a unionization election for his own company. So this story was first reported by CNN, but CNN. So I went to another website, and this was reported by Seattle Times. Amazon presses for in-person voting for election in midst of a pandemic. This is written by Jay Green of the Washington Post, which is, again, another satirical part of this. The Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon. So Amazon wants the upcoming unionization election at its Bessemer, Alabama warehouse to be held in person, arguing against National Labor Relations Board guidance to hold mail-in balloting in the middle of a pandemic. So this is going against an organization called NLRB, which is saying that they should have mail-in voting, but Jeff Bezos is saying, no, you guys need to come down to Alabama and vote in person, which we don't want you to do for presidential elections, but unionization elections, we should go in person. The e-commerce giant late Thursday appealed the ruling by an NLRB hearing officer a week ago to allow roughly 6,000 workers to take 7 weeks starting February 8th to cast their ballots by mail to be represented by the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union. Amazon argued one of two filings that the agency's pandemic voting policy is flawed, in part because it fails to define what a outbreak actually is. I think the definition is pretty clear. When the majority of states are locked down or held or holding some sort of restriction in some way, I think that qualifies as an outbreak. The guidance reflected assumptions developed comparatively earlier in the pandemic, before scientific understanding of the virus and possible precautions had developed to where it is today, Amazon says in its filing. That's just a bunch of PR speak saying, oh, everything's calmed down now. Well, it really hasn't calmed down. Do you even watch the news, Jeff? Do you even read your own paper that you freaking own? If anything, it's gotten a little bit worse or stayed the same since we had presidential elections. It's very ironic, all of this. It's very satirical. It's like an episode of Family Guy or South Park or The Simpsons playing out in real life. A union spokeswoman declined to comment on the filing. An Amazon spokeswoman did not immediately respond to requests for comment. We ain't talking. The vote, the first unionization effort in the United States by Amazon workers in 7 years, is emerging as a major labor battle at one of the country's largest employers. Amazon has staunchly fought against this unionization at its American facilities, even as its European warehouse workers are represented by labor groups. So these labor unions have formed in the EU in Europe, but in America, he's fighting it, and you could say he's somewhat suppressing this vote from even happening because he's restricting mail-in ballot voting. That's interesting, because the same people like Jeff Bezos were saying that Republicans were restricting or suppressing the vote by not advocating for mail-in ballots voting for the elections, the presidential elections. Seems kind of, hypocritical? Amazon has retained Morgan Lewis and Bacchius, a top anti-union law firm, and the one it used to successfully fend off a union representation bid by a smaller group of equipment maintenance and repair technicians at its Middletown, Delaware warehouse in 2014. Delaware, you say? It's also set up an anti-union website, doitwithoutdues.com, discouraging workers from paying dues and joining the RWDSU. This is the most telling quote from the article. In the Bessemer union battle, holding in-person voting would require the board to send its staff to a region where the spread of the coronavirus is particularly high. Lisa Henderson, the acting regional director of the NLRB's Atlanta office, wrote in her decision, moreover, in-person voting could disenfranchise voters who have COVID-19 or are concerned about contracting the disease, she wrote. The most important factors in my decision are the safety of all election participants and the enfranchisement of all voters. Both of these factors weigh in favor of a mail ballot election. Where were all these people during the presidential election? All of these people that are higher up in companies, the ones that expressed their leanings, the ones that expressed their opinions, were all for mail-in ballot voting. It just so happens that after that election was held, that these people want mail-in voting to be restricted, suppressed. It's very satirical. It's very ironic how this is all happening now. To make its case, Amazon noted that 218 people of the 7,575 employees of Amazon and third parties that work at the facility tested positive for the virus in the 2 weeks preceding January 7th. It argued that a 3% infection rate shouldn't be considered an outbreak. This is ridiculous. Amazon also cited the recent presidential election where many states held in-person voting to argue against Henderson's voting decision. Now Jeff Bezos is saying that mail-in voting is bad because there's only a 3% infection rate. Come to Alabama and vote in person or you're fired. This result also stands in vivid contrast to the recent successful efforts by many state governments to expand the choices of how and when individuals can vote in political elections, including through mail ballots. Amazon argued the board, ironically, has been limiting the right to vote through its mail ballot only approach for almost every election since March 2020. Amazon has offered to pay for efforts to hold the election safety, including it offered a heated tent for voting set up in the warehouse parking lot. Oh, a heated tent. $1 billion corporation can afford a heated tent. So go in and risk getting the virus to vote in our unionization election, which we don't want anyway, so we're going to suppress mail-in ballot voting so you don't even vote. We don't want you to unionize. So we're going to make it even harder for you guys to even vote to get into a union. Very ironic. Henderson rejected because it could be misconstrued as the board accepting benefits from the company. If you can't see the satirical comedy / irony or hypocrisy in all this, I don't know what to tell you. This is a giant episode of South Park we are living in. In fact, I will even predict that South Park will play this out in one of its episodes somehow. Mark my words, this is either going to be in a Simpsons episode, South Park episode, or Family Guy in the next coming months. Amazon is saying no to mail-in ballot voting. $1 billion company, the biggest online retailer in the world, is telling its employees you cannot use mail-in ballot voting. You have to fly /drive /walk to our Alabama warehouse to vote for a unionization election. But it somehow was not okay for Republicans or anyone that was opposed to mail-in ballot voting, which could definitely be seen as the same thing. It's just very hypocritical. And a lot of people are calling it out right now. This was also written by the Washington Post, which someone might get fired over this. How dare you cover Jeff Bezos being hypocritical? And that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found some informative comedic value in today's video. If you want to support me on this journey I am taking, please hit that like button and subscribe. I plan on putting out videos 3 to 4 times a week. Some of it will be like this, newsworthy stuff that's not really covered by the mainstream media, and spiritual information. Do you like shirts? Do you like posters? Well, I have the website for you. It is my merchandise store that I opened up on Teespring. The URL is teespring.com/store/sensei-productions-merch. I will be posting a link in the video and in the description below. I'm trying to get into graphic design. I like doing it. Hopefully you guys enjoy looking at it. If you do, let me know. Thank you for watching. You are appreciated. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday and an amazing year in 2021. Namaste.